All right. Welcome, guys. So, this is going to be the first section about moving on the way of man. And as you know, this group is going to be, I want this group to be sort of kind of put on this path, but obviously, it's not a path that I can force you to take. But also, I believe it's a path that I can't, there is no prescriptions per se about this path. Um, no hard prescriptions anyway, other than more ambiguous pointings like begin with yourself. But anyways, to set the tone for the group, there's something in the very first chapter of The Way of Man called heart searching. Um, I've debated about how I want to go about this, how I want to teach this, but it just seems that there's no getting around reading it and then kind of giving my exposition on it. So I will start. I'll just start with the reading. So this is going to be Rabbi. There's a lot of weird names I don't know how to pronounce, so I'm just call it just Rabbi Zalman. Rabbi Zalman was put in jail in Petersburg because of the Mitnagdim had denounced his principles and his way of living to the government. He was awaiting trial when the chief of the gendarmes entered his cell. The majestic and quiet face of the Rav, who was so deep in meditation that he did not at first notice his visitor, suggested to the chief, a thoughtful person, what manner of man he had before him. He began to converse with his prisoner and brought up a number of questions which had occurred to him in reading the scriptures. Finally, he asked, how are we to understand that God, the all-knowing, said to Adam, where art thou? Do you believe, answered the Rav, that the scriptures are eternal and that every era, every generation, every man is included in them? I believe this, said the other. Well then, said the Tzaddik, in every era God calls to every man. Where are you in your world? So many years and days of those allotted to you have passed. And how far have you gone in your world? God says something like this: you have lived 46 years. How far along are you? When the chief heard his age mentioned, he pulled himself together, laid his hand on Rav's shoulder and cried, bravo, but his heart trembled. And then Buber expounds upon this. He goes, what happens in this tale? He says, at first sight, it reminds us of the certain Talmudic stories in which a Roman or some other heathen questions a Jewish sage about a biblical passage with a view to exposing an alleged contradiction in Jewish religious doctrine, and receives a reply which either explains that there is no such contradiction or refutes the questioner's arguments in some other way. Sometimes a personal admonition is added to the actual reply, but we soon perceive an important difference between those Talmudic stories and this Hasidic one, though at first the difference appears greater than it actually is. It consists in the fact that in the Hasidic story, the reply is given on a different plane from that on which the question is asked. The chief wants to expose an alleged contradiction in the Jewish doctrine. The Jews profess to believe in God as the all-knowing, but the Bible makes him ask questions as they are asked by somebody who wants to learn something he does not know. God seeks Adam, who has hidden himself. He calls into the garden, asking where he is. It would thus seem that he does not know it, that it is possible to hide from him, and consequently that he is all-knowing. Now, instead of explaining the passage and solving the seeming contradiction, the rabbi takes the text merely as a starting point from which he proceeds to reproach the chief with his past life, his lack of seriousness, his thoughtlessness, and irresponsibility. An impersonal question which, however seriously it may be meant in the present instance, is in fact no genuine question, but merely a form of controversy. Calls forth a personal reply, or rather a personal admonition in lieu of a reply. It thus seems as if nothing had remained of those Talmudic answers but the admonition which sometimes accompanied them. Hooper continues. He says, but let us examine the story more closely. The chief inquires about a passage from the biblical story of Adam's sin. The rabbi's answer means, in effect, you yourself are Adam. You are the man whom God asked, where art thou? It would thus seem that the answer gives no explanation of the passage as such. In fact, however, it illuminates both the situation of the biblical Adam and that of every man in every time and every place. For as soon as the chief hears and understands that the biblical question is addressed to him, he is bound to realize what it means when God asks, where art thou? Whether the question be addressed to Adam or to some other man. And so asking God does not expect to learn something he does not know. What he wants is to produce an effect in man which can only be produced by such a question, provided that it reaches man's heart, that allows it to reach his heart. That man allows it to reach his heart. Adam hides himself to avoid rendering accounts, to escape responsibility for his way of living. Every man hides for this purpose, for every man is Adam and finds himself in Adam's situation. To escape responsibility for his life, he turns existence into a system of hideouts, and in thus hiding again and again from the face of God, he enmeshes himself more and more deeply in perversity. A new situation thus arises which becomes more and more questionable with every day, with every new hideout. This situation can be precisely defined as follows. Man cannot escape the eye of God, but in trying to hide from him, he's hiding from himself. True, in him too there is something that seeks him, but he makes it harder and harder for that something to find him. This question is designed to awaken man and destroy his system of hideouts. It is to show man to what pass he has come and to awaken him the great will to get out of it. Everything now depends on whether man faces the question. Of course, every man's heart, like that of the chief in the story, will tremble when he hears it. But his system of hideouts will help him to overcome his emotion. For the voice does not come in a thunderstorm, which threatens man's very existence. It is a still small voice, and easy to drown. So long as this is done, man's life will not become a way. Whatever success and enjoyment he may achieve, whatever power he may attain, and whatever deeds he may do, I lost my place. His life will remain wayless so long as he does not face the voice. Adam faces the voice, perceives his enmeshment, and avows, I hid myself. This is the beginning of man's way. The decisive heart searching is the beginning of the way in man's life. It is again and again the beginning of a human way, but heart searching is decisive only if it leads to the way. For there is a sterile kind of heart searching which leads to nothing but self-torture, despair, and deeper enmeshment. When the rabbi of Gur, in expounding the scriptures, came to the words which Jacob addresses to his servant, when Esau, my brother, meets thee and asks thee, saying, whose art thou, and whither goest thou, and whose are these before thee? He would say to his disciples, mark well how similar Esau's questions are to the saying of our sages. Quote, consider three things. Know whence you came, whither you are going, and to whom you will have to render accounts. End of quotation. Be very careful, for great caution should be exercised by him who considers these three things, lest Esau ask in him. For Esau too may ask these questions and bring man into a state of gloom. There is a demonic question, a spurious question, which apes God's question, the question of truth. Its characteristic is that it does not stop at, where art thou? It but continues, from where you have got to, there is no way out. This is the wrong. Oh, let me rephrase that. Its characteristic is that it does not stop at, quote, where art thou, but continues, quote, from where you have got to, there is no way out, end quote. This is the wrong kind of heart searching, which does not prompt man to turn and put him on the way, but by representing turning as hopeless, drives him to a point where it appears to have become entirely impossible, and man can go on living only by demonic pride, the pride of perversity. Okay. So there's several things here. But I'll just frame it this way. When we reflect on this passage about heart searching and what it means, there is a sense of responsibility being imposed upon us, or you could say that we feel this kind of sense of responsibility. And I think it's a matter of taking an honest look at ourselves and contemplate what we have been hiding from. And this will reveal, in some sense, the way. So the hard question, which is ironically also the hard question, has a sense of being in tune with our vulnerability. What have we been protecting? What have we been hiding from, distancing ourselves from? And this is, in some sense, answering the question of where are you? Because if we don't realize that we're hiding, or even if we know that we're hiding, and by virtue of hiding, we remain wayless. We don't have a way. And so coming out of hiding, we are able to, in some sense, possibly find a way. But it has to come, in my opinion, with a, because it sounds from Buber's exposition on this, it sounds like the first thing that Adam admitted was, yes, I'm hiding, right? So it has to be, it seems that an element of beginning this heart searching is to sort of this acknowledgement of I'm hiding. I have been hiding from something that makes me deeply vulnerable. With Adam's story, it was very clear that he was naked and he didn't listen to God's command, so he hid. And so we have to think, and of course, Buber doesn't really give us any answers, right? Like, that's what's fascinating about Buber, is that even though you get a kind of pointing, you don't get a prescription, right? Because I don't know what you're hiding from. I don't know what I'm, I mean, well, I can make a really good guess about what I'm hiding from. But what I mean is, I don't know what you're hiding from. You don't know what others are hiding from. Um, it's possible that I may not know that what I'm hiding from, but the beginning point may be to acknowledge that I am hiding from something, right? And that's already a way of heart seeking. Um, Now, there is a sort of danger to this heart seeking that can make it sterile, as Buber talked about. And what is that? I would say the moment we discover what we're hiding from, there's going to be this tendency to turn it into a question of despair, and turn it into a question of hopelessness. Basically, Buber is exploiting the sort of infinite spurious negativity of certain questions and certain realizations. So, for example, if you've ever been like in a kind of like fruitless discussion with someone, and you know, for example, you start to see like it's not getting anywhere. Um, a part of that conversation, you will begin to despair because you go, okay, what's the point? It's hopeless. There's no need to even talk to this person anymore. Um, Everything like that. But all that the heart searching is asking is that you become aware of what you are hiding from in that conversation, that hard conversation that's impossible to break through with another person. It's not about getting fixated on whether you can do it or cannot do it, because if you get fixated on that, that can prevent you from genuinely finding your way. It seems what is being called for is just this intimate understanding, or this intimate confession to ourselves that we are hiding. And once we admit to ourselves that we are hiding, we make the intention, you could say, to get out of that hiding. And once we get out of that hiding, we are being open to finding a way. We're opening, in some sense, our hearts to finding a way. And that would be my fundamental exposition. We have to let things address us, or look at things the way it can address us to bring us out of our hiding. And that would be the aim of this group, right? The first step of this group is to find things that address us, even though they may be deeply impersonal, right? Whether it be philosophical in nature. We have to find what addresses us. So with that being said, that is the first phase of this group, is to always have that kind of thing in mind about when we're reading, when we're discussing, to think about what part of this impersonable reading can I make it a personable reply? How can I make it personal to myself? How can I make this material address me? And that is fundamentally becoming intimate with the things that you're hiding from. Um, and that's what I think is very pivotal, is that the only way you can address yourself properly is to understand why you're hiding and what you're hiding from. But anyways, I will leave it there. All right, guys, take care.